This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
It's that time of year again. When you start arranging pumpkins on the stoop, try out a new cranberry sauce recipe and plan out a tablescape that'll outdo last year's. In other words, it's when you break out all your DIY holiday skills. And now, ADT is making it easy to DIY your home security too. Their systems aren't just simple to set up, they also fit within your budget. So get excited for your next project, because your peace of mind just went DIY. Visit ADT.com or call 1-800-ADT-ASAP. When every second counts, count on ADT.
When it comes down to whether I'm going to heal from this health condition or not, you're going to say, am I going to hold a grudge against that person for the rest of my life because the only person that's hurting is me? If I really want to live and my response to that person is weakening me, that isn't loving to me. The majority of health conditions are chronic, but nobody's teaching people how to change. We use meditation not to heal. We use meditation to teach people how to change. And when you change, then you heal.
You've seen countless people have spontaneous remissions of various diseases. Why is that we're not programmed to see that truth?
I'm gonna see if I can walk the tightrope here. We have so many data points that we could take a picture of your face at the end of 7 days and I can tell you if you're transformed.
Is there less wrinkles?
Right. So we have a lot of people that come to our events that are healthy-minded, successful, people that want to just get better at life. And that's the fun part. When you're in that flow and the universe is working for you and you're saying, I'm not doing anything, it just seems like the opportunities are coming to me. When you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you're changing your biology. And so we all know how to do this. The challenging part is
Oldish. The art of knowing more and caring less. With your hosts, Randy Spelling, Brian Austin Green, and Sharna Burgess.
He is one of the most recognized voices in the world of mind-body transformation. And after a near-fatal accident left him with a broken spine, doctors said he would never walk again. But instead of giving in, Dr. Joe turned inward, using the power of his mind and meditation to heal his body. And he did. That experience became the foundation for decades of research into how our thoughts, emotions, and energy shape our lives. Today, he's a global teacher, a best-selling author, and the voice behind a movement that blends science and spirit in a way that's both real and revolutionary. From What the Bleep Do We Know and Source to Becoming Supernatural, Dr. Joe has inspired millions to believe that change isn't just possible, it's inevitable when you know how to access it. So, take a breath, open your mind and heart, and get ready to expand what you thought was possible around healing, transformation, and human potential. Dr. Joe Dispenza, welcome to Oldish.
Gosh, I'm so happy to be with all you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming here.
Yeah.
We were shocked when you said that you wanted to come in, because this is you. I know you travel the world speaking, and you and people welcome you everywhere. So for you to agree to come in this room and sit with us is beyond humbling for me.
And an honor. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's an absolute
But you guys are making a difference in people's lives, so that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Well,
we
thank you.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So in terms of, there's so many things to get into. You do retreats all over the world. You have literally changed millions of people's lives. When you talk about transformation, your name is at the forefront of that. You're doing really special work. These events, these retreats that you have, what would you say are the base of people that come in? Why are they coming into these retreats?
Oh, gosh. Well, there are people that come to the retreats that are just like us, that want to learn and find ways to create their life or enhance their life in some way. Other people come because they're sick and they've been diagnosed with a disease. Some people come because they want to find love, or they want to create a new job or a new career, or manifest abundance, or have mystical experiences without using exogenous substances. And some people just come for community. We have a really thriving community, and our data, one of the things that we discovered in our research is that people change people. So a community is created by a collective consciousness, and consciousness is an awareness, right? So when there's an awareness of human potential and people actually get to the point where they can apply it, we see this emergent consciousness take place when people behave the same way. And it's reflected in their biology. In other words, people can come from all walks of life. Everybody has their own individual gene expression, and genes make proteins. But at the end of 7 days, 80% of the population is expressing the same genes and making the same proteins. It means the flock, the herd, the tribe is evolving collectively. So people come for all kinds of reasons, but in the end, they come for wholeness.
Do you feel like when you get that many people in a room together that it physically changes the makeup of the air that's around and the space itself, which is why then people share, they share this, they have these common feelings and these common
changes in their
ways
brain
to deal with things?
Yeah, we study that, Brian. We have sophisticated coin tosses that are called random event generators.
Okay.
And we're always looking to see if you toss a coin 1,000 times, and the more you toss it, the greater the probability is going to be 50-50, heads or tails, right? So there's these computer-generated coin tosses that are flipping zeros and ones. And when nobody's in the room, it's 50-50, 0, 1, 0, 1, but it's not 0, 1, 0, 1, it may be 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, like that.
Right.
When a collective group of people get together and they have coherence in their nervous system, in their brain and their heart, and they're going to use that energy to, say, as an example, heal another person, all of a sudden those random events no longer are random. They get highly organized. And all of a sudden you see go 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, like that. And all of a sudden you see a dramatic change in the field of the room. By the same means, we're measuring breath. When people go to a comedy show and they watch a comedy show, they have different metabolites in their breath than when they watch a horror show. So we're trying to gather as much data as we can, but we're measuring the atmosphere of the room. And I was just talking to the scientists on the way here, and the preliminary data is pretty outstanding. There's definitely changes that take place.
That's so amazing.
What are some of these changes that you're seeing taking place?
Well, the 7-day event is a fully immersive experience. And the reason that I think in-person events are so important is that people have to put their devices down. When you get uncomfortable or you're not feeling yourself, you do something to stimulate yourself to take away that feeling, right? So the idea of the 7-day event is take a group of people from all over the world, usually around 2,000, around that number, and give them really good information. And, knowledge is the forerunner to an experience. And the more you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, the how can become easier. Demystify the whole process. Use science as the language. Combine quantum physics or Newtonian physics with neuroscience and neuroendocrinology and psychoneuroimmunology, which is the mind-body connection, epigenetics. Give them the science and let that be the language. And nothing's left to conjecture or superstition or dogma.
Right. Yeah.
And people go, and when you learn something, you're making new connections in your brain. And we discovered, give people the information, have them understand it, and then if they're making new connections, if they don't review it, if they don't repeat it, if they don't think about it over and over again, the circuits will prune apart within hours or days. So nerve cells that fire together wire together. So turn to the person next to you and teach the information back to them. And if you can teach it back to them and you're reminding yourself what you learned, mind is the brain in action, you're reproducing the same level of mind, you can begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain. So build a model of understanding. Nothing left to conjecture, superstition, or dogma. Get to the point now, set up the environment where people can take the philosophy, the theory, the knowledge, the information, and apply it, personalize it, demonstrate it, do something with it.
Yeah.
Initiate the knowledge and get your behaviors to match your intentions or your actions equal to your thoughts. Get your mind and body working together, you're going to have a new experience. Experience enriches the philosophical circuits in your brain, jungles of neurons organized into networks. The moment they string into place, the brain makes a chemical. That chemical is called a feeling, it's called an emotion. It's the end product of an experience. When you feel unlimited, when you feel grateful, when you feel love for life from the experience, now you're teaching your body chemically to understand what your mind is intellectually understood. So knowledge is for the mind and experience is for the body. The information no longer is in the mind. Now it's in the body. The person's embodying the truth of that philosophy. And it's that chemical signature from the novelty of the experience that begins to select and instruct new genes. It's new information, right? You've done it once. You got to be able to do it again. That's all we do. We teach people how to reproduce the experience. And if you keep reproducing the experience, you will neurochemically or neurologically and chemically condition the mind and body to begin to work as one. When you've done something so many times that the body now knows how to do it better than the conscious mind, it's innate in you. You've become the knowledge. You've mastered the philosophy. And so when you look at the end of 7 days, all we're teaching people how to do is change. That's all we're teaching them how to do. And we've figured out, based on all the research we've done, that there's a very simple formula. And if you apply this formula, at the end of 7 days, I'll just give you an example. Most pharmaceutical studies are like, a great one is like 25% effective, 1 out of 4 people.
Right.
Our data is typically 77% of the population, 80% of the population, 84% of the population, 90% of the population, 100% of the population of the people that we're studying have dramatic changes in their biology. At the end of 7 days, their brains are way more efficient. There's less division in the brain, less compartmentalization. There's more coherence. The heart is way more coherent as well. The immune system is more robust. They're regulating thousands of metabolites in their blood that were not there before. About 80% of the population is expression, as I said, new genes. They have a completely different microbiome without changing their diet, without taking a probiotic. Completely different expression of breast milk. A lactating mother has very different breast milk at the end of 7 days than when she arrived.
Well,
and there's chemicals, there's
because
factors.
You're rewiring, you are changing your system. So of course.
Yeah, and that's information.
Yeah.
Right. So the factors that we've isolated in women's breast milk are it's anti-cancer, and it accelerates wound healing and injury.
Wow.
So the mother is passing on information to the child that will give the child the greatest advantage in the environment, because that's the environment the mother is experiencing, right? There's changes in the breath metabolites. I mean, there's changes in facial expression. There's changes in your harmonicity in your voice. There's changes in the language that you use at the end of 7 days. We have language specialists that come and study what we do. And there's dramatic changes in longevity and cell longevity. We have just crazy stuff we're discovering. Yeah.
There's some very specific stories from Source that I do want to talk about at some point because I find them fascinating. But I do want to get into like this process that you're talking about, this formula. It's done, is it all entirely done through meditation at your retreats?
I mean, the concept is information, the transformation. That's what we like to teach. Mm-hmm. We don't just do meditation like in the traditional sense. I think it's really important to give people a period of learning. Mm-hmm. The more you learn, I think it's so important, the more you're more equipped you are for the experience. And experience is the greatest professor, right? So there's 4 types of meditations. There's after you learn the information, there's meditations we use to create more coherence in your brain. There's meditations we use to create more balance in your immune system. There's meditations we use to intentionally change your biology or signal genes. We just based on this, we have trillions of data points. And when I say trillions, I mean trillions. That we give the information. There's seated meditations, and then we do standing and walking meditations. We do lying down meditations. We do all kinds of breathing breaths for very specific reasons. So it's a very engaging experience. So the 7-day event, you start at 6 a.m. and we typically finish at 7:30 at night.
How many days does it take typically out of those 7 for you to see people really starting to understand the change? And because I know there's a warm-up period for people where they're like, this feels crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing right now?
Yeah.
And I would assume there's probably a couple days. Maybe it's just a half of the first day. I have no idea.
You're actually right, Brian. It's we were just talking about this at 8 o'clock this morning. We had a big research call, and we were studying the language of transformation. And we have, again, so much information about people talking and describing their transformative process. But there's a curiosity that happens at the beginning of the week. Mm-hmm. And then it's followed by a struggle or a challenge. Now, what does that mean? That means you're breaking the habit of being yourself, and you're becoming conscious of how you think and old beliefs. You're aware of your complaining and how you behave.
I was having this conversation, I swear, yesterday with someone about like making a conscious decision to, instead of being who you are innately from your childhood and from all the things, being the person you actually want to be, and that it's hard until you start seeing these results in these choices that you make, and then you get excited because you go, "Oh man, that actually worked. I want to do that again." That's what I did. I had a therapist that was fantastic. That was like the Russian mother I've never had and I've always wanted, and she would tell me like, "Okay, so I don't want you to say it like that anymore. Try saying something this way. Try doing this." And so it was these real like tough, hard-line things to try. And I was so nervous about trying them all because I come from like not being combative with people and not having very good communication skills with people because we didn't have healthy communication around the dinner table. So I'd never learned it. And then as soon as those little things worked, I was like, oh, so I can't imagine if you're doing 7 full days.
Yeah, well, the great thing about it is you can't run from the discomfort.
Yeah.
And so the struggle and the challenge is essential because you either shrink back into the old self or you step out into the unknown. And by observing your thoughts, noticing how you're acting and speaking and paying attention to how you're feeling, we've discovered it takes an enormous amount of energy, an enormous amount of awareness to stay conscious and not go unconscious. So those first couple days, people are coming up against, it's too hard, I'll never change. They're frustrated, they're impatient, they want to tell the story of their past to reaffirm who they are, right?
Right.
But we've done it enough times now to now know that right around that second day, if they just hang in there and they're curious, what's on the other side of that? I can't, or it's too hard, or this anger, or this pain, or this fear, or this unworthiness. If you're willing to just go past that point, that's when we change the most. That's the unknown, right?
Right.
So then following that period of struggle and challenge, if you give people enough information, then all of a sudden it leads to something really cool, which is connection. And that's the most common thing they say. I just connected. I just got it. Like it made sense. It was just like learning how to snowboard, right? It's tedious in the beginning until you figure it out. And then you're like, oh my God, what was I working so hard for?
Right.
That's what happens. And then after connection, it's instrumental because then there's transformation and a change in form, a change in biology. And not only are we seeing it in, the science that we're researching, but we're seeing it in human testimony. Like there's the disease, there's the chronic disease, and now it's gone because chronic health conditions require a lifestyle change. And the majority of health conditions are chronic, but nobody's teaching people how to change. So we use meditation, to answer your question, not to heal. We use meditation to teach people how to change. And when you change, then you heal.
Yes.
So it's not about like, how come I haven't healed?
Right.
I'm doing my meditation. It's no, like, you got to, how you think and how you act and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality.
Yeah.
If I want to create a new personal reality, I got to change my personality. And that 95% of who we are by the time we're in the middle of our life are a set of programs, how we think, how we act, and how we feel. Subconscious programs, hardwired attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions, automatic habits and behaviors, and emotional conditioning and addiction. So the first part to change is the unlearning process. It's the unlearning or the overcoming that is the becoming process. Nobody wants to do that to themselves because it's uncomfortable. And yet, if you're willing, what was the words we discovered today? Commitment. The person uses the word commitment when they're committed to change. They have transformation. If they see the challenge that's in front of them as a challenge, they'll transform faster. If they see it as a struggle, they'll still transform. It just take them a little bit longer.
Right.
It's just so again, like we have so many data points. We have so many data points that we could take a picture of your face at the end of 7 days, and I can tell you if you're transformed. We have. Because when people's faces are different at the end of 7 days.
Is there less wrinkles?
Right.
We're not, oh, you know what? We just found the program where you can actually determine longevity based on face. So we're going to start. We just ran thousands of them through. So I'll let you know.
How many people do you generally have at the retreats that you do? Like
about 2,000.
About 2,000.
Yeah.
How I can't imagine how good it feels at the end of 7 days to look across a room of 2,000 people.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
And see what you've helped them achieve.
I think that is worth all the effort for me. I think there's something that happens to us, Brian, like when you're a part of human transformation. There's an empathy that awakens in us where we can relate, we can experience the other person's feelings and their gratitude. And I think that's when we kind of bond and we connect and we appreciate the moment more. I mean, you discover it's never been about you. It's been about everybody, right? And then you start seeing people with stage 4 cancers or tumors, or I know this is crazy, Parkinson's disease or ALS or diabetes or brain tumors or blindness or deafness or chronic or rare genetic disorders. You see them stand on the stage and tell their story, and they no longer have the health condition. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable, and that's the whole reason why we started doing the research in the beginning, because if that happened, how did that happen? Because the skeptic in me was kind of like surprised to see someone jump out of a wheelchair. Surprised me what happened during that meditation that transformed their biology. And we've never been disappointed in any of the studies that we've done. And we're not studying Buddhist monks. We're not studying nuns with 40 years of devotion. We're studying common people. Give them the formula. Get serious about it, commit to a week, go all in, don't go halfway in, go all in. We can guarantee at the end of 7 days, the majority of people will have some type of dramatic change in their biology. And I'm not saying that, the data's saying that.
That's so cool.
And I love that you also balance that with, do you call them controls? Balance that with some of like partners and loved ones that aren't going through the retreat. So you have this data to also show these people aren't experiencing. It's not that this is just magical, it's suddenly happening or whatever. There are other people not doing that work and they're not experiencing any of these things, but they're in the same place.
Yes.
You know, and
you have to run a control. You have to make it really, really valid.
So what happens, I mean, if someone is listening to this and they are saying, okay, I know some of this work. I have a gratitude practice, or I've studied law of attraction, or I know self-help. I know the things, but yet I'm still bumping up against the same problems. I haven't experienced transformation. Maybe transformation or change just isn't possible for me. What do you say to someone like that?
I would say that when the pain of your discomfort outweighs your fear of failure or fear of the unknown, you'll make a choice to change. I mean, the philosophy, the theory, all of that stuff, as we were talking about, is great dinner conversation. Nobody changes with dinner conversation. You could repeat or espouse all the theory, all the philosophy, all the knowledge that you want, but the real test is the application. The real test is saying, okay, if this is the truth and I'm going to embrace this philosophy, my law of attraction or whatever, as the truth, then I have to prove to myself that it has to work in my life. Otherwise, it's still a philosophy. So then to the person who really wants to get serious about it, relearn the information. Relearn it to the point where you can actually repeat it. Once you can repeat it and you learn it, okay, what am I going to do about it? I'm doing this with the intention to produce this outcome. Because when you assign meaning to an act, you switch on the brain's, the powerhouse, the frontal lobe. That's the crowning achievement of the human being. When you have a very clear understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you assign meaning to it, that part of the brain switches on and it wants an outcome. It wants a result. It wants to see something. So try it out as an experiment. Write down 2 thoughts, 2 behaviors, and 2 emotions that are no longer serving you, and become so conscious of those unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that you don't go unconscious to them in your waking day. Write down 2 thoughts you do want to believe and repeat them in your mind over and over again so you can remember them. Decide how you're going to be with your children, or your spouse, or your partner, or with your coworkers, or with your enemy. And rehearse in your mind, just like you've all done. Rehearse. Mental rehearsal actually installs circuits in your brain to look like you've done it already. You prime
I mentally rehearse arguments with people all the time. So I may as well put it to much better use.
You've also mentally rehearsed dancing.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what primes the brain and it changes the body. And then can I teach my body emotionally what my future will feel like before it happens? Because if you're waiting for your wealth to feel abundant, you're living by the old model of reality. If you're waiting for your life to change for you to feel grateful, that's the old model of reality of cause and effect, is waiting for something to change to take away the lack of not having it. What we teach people is the exact opposite. If you can teach your body emotionally what your future feels like, once you feel the emotion of your future, you're no longer looking for it. You only look for it when you feel separate from it. And we can't attract anything in our life that we feel separate from. So the process of change then is the instruction. So do we wait for crisis? Do we wait for disease? Do we wait for diagnosis? Do we wait for loss? Do we wait for betrayal? When we get so bad, the pain of our discomfort now says, we finally say, okay, I'm ready to step into the unknown and change. Why wait? Why wait? And so we have a lot of people that come to our events that are healthy-minded, successful, people that want to just get better at life. And instead of having to do stuff to get it, is there a way that you can start to draw it to you? And that's the fun part. When you're in that flow and the universe is working for you and you're saying, I'm not doing anything, it just seems like the opportunities are coming to me. That's because you've changed the signal, right? You changed the signal in the field. So to the person who says they know everything, they've studied it, the real measures now is the feedback is when you apply it to your life. When you see the feedback in your life where the new opportunity comes, or the synchronicity or the coincidence or the serendipity. And I'm not talking about finding a penny or, getting a parking space, or your college roommate calling you up. Not like that. I'm talking about
I've been getting parking spaces recently, and I was like, "Oh, this means something."
You're on to something. You're on to something. But
boy.
But when the bigger things happen, that's the moment it starts to prove to us that, in fact, we are the creator of our lives. And that's what this is all about, to prove to yourself that you are the creator of your life, and in some way shorten the distance between the thought of what you want and the experience of having it. And so our community, what I'm proud of with our community is that we're doers. Everybody does the work, and not because they're like, oh, I have to create my life today. They do the work because they don't want the magic to end. It's not, they're like, I don't want to jinx this. Like, it's working for me. I'm going to keep showing up and keep doing this. And if it keeps working, I'm going to keep doing it. Why would I stop? So the practical application, I'm a pragmatist. I'm a pragmatist. I want to see if it works. So to that person, relearn the information. Don't wait till it gets so bad that you have to do it.
Right.
Experiment. This
Right.
life is the experiment. Try it out. If I change my energy, will my life change?
Right.
If I change the way I think.
Before it's an uphill battle of like, now I've got to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And now your back's against the wall. And
Right.
it's very difficult when there's desperation.
Sure.
It takes a lot.
Because you make
it's the ultimate
choices
lack.
from the wrong place.
It's the ultimate lack.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of experimentation, I'm curious, do you ever experiment? I mean, you're teaching thousands of people. Do you ever sit in meditation and go, today I'm just going to
try
play
something different
and see what happens?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm weird. So,
We're all a little weird. It's okay.
so I always do.
Monday Sidekick, the AI agent that knows you and your business, thinks ahead, and takes action. Ask it anything. Seriously. Monday Sidekick, AI you'll love to use. Start a free trial today on monday.com.
You know that feeling when you put on something so comfortable that it kind of resets you?
Oh, yes, 100%. Like your whole nervous system just goes,
Literally, that's me every time I put on my Bombas socks. It's wild how something that small can change your mood.
Isn't that interesting? It's like the little things that help you slow down. And their t-shirts are awesome.
Yes. And you know what? They do not feel like throwaway clothes, right?
No.
They feel like made to last clothes. And I love that they think about design on that kind of a level.
The slippers, let's not skip those. Okay, I basically turn mine into house shoes. I'll take the trash out, I'll walk the dog, I'll come back inside, and I'm still wearing it.
Yeah, you actually live in
I
it.
absolutely live in those things. They kind of nailed that cozy but durable thing.
Yeah. And you know what I really love about Bombas is that for every item you buy, they donate one to someone that's experiencing homelessness. It's amazing.
It gets me every time. Like, you're buying something small for yourself, but it actually matters to someone else.
Exactly. It's comfort with purpose. That's what makes it stick for me. It's not just socks. It's a reminder to care about the simple things.
Yeah, so if you haven't tried them yet, head to bombas.com/audio and use code audio for 20% off your first purchase.
That's BOMBAS.com/audio, code audio.
You'll see what we mean once you put them on. It's a whole vibe.
Because we have our week-long retreats, which are always changing to some degree, but there's a common thread to them. But we have advanced follow-ups. People have gone to week-long events and they want to go in depth on, say, the molecules or the mystical or healing or whatever. We pick one subject matter and for 3 days we immerse ourselves in it. So I'm always thinking about the next meditation. I was in the studio 10 times in the last 3 weeks, doing new meditations. And I have to find the right music. And, we have great data on music and what creates the right brain states, my language and when I induce meditative states. So I'm always in the experimenting process. I'm always pushing the edge of whatever I'm doing based on my own journey, as well as like I'll say to Hemel, who's our lead scientist. We have this study where we've discovered that when people get intentional and they're in the right state of mind, they could actually, 100% of the people could actually have the intention to signal a specific gene and make a protein, and 100% of them can do it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just it's a molecule in the blood. So that's a pretty powerful statement.
That's bananas.
So if it's just that random protein that we picked, why not pick an immunoglobulin? Why not pick growth hormone? Why not pick, pregnenolone? Pick the ones that are really good for you, right? So I'm always thinking if this has worked and this worked, can we set it up for this to work? And so I'm always evolving the model. I'm always experimenting. I'm always trying to figure out a way to say it differently or teach it differently, and at the same time support it with something that people can do. So I have to do that to keep evolving the work.
Have you ever been disappointed? Was there something where you were like, I want to really dig in and see if this is possible, and then it just doesn't. there's some sort of a block, or have you found that like anything you put your mind to, you can really?
Oh gosh, no, I'm still working on tons of things. Okay. Always. I mean, I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very curious about this, but what I can tell you, Brian, is that we've never been disappointed in any scientific study we've done. I have such confidence in our community, incredible confidence. I say to the scientists, you want to measure that? I don't care. I mean, we now know at the end of 7 days, people are stronger. They walk completely different. I mean, we're finding out. We're always trying to push the limit. But when it comes to our community, I'm always super excited to see the research. It's incredible.
Has there ever been people that have just at the end of 7 days not gotten it, or has everyone walked away with something, or are some people so stuck in that? What did we call it? The chronic disbelief.
Yeah.
That even 7 days has been hard.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure there's a certain percentage of those, maybe a small percentage.
Need more time.
But I've been at every week-long retreat.
Yeah.
And God, it's just there's this kind of emergent energy that takes place. And we had our first 10-day retreat last year in December. I didn't want to do that. The community asked for that. And we're doing another one in November. And one of the things we did is we were measuring heart rate variability, right? And so we had 700 people, right? And heart rate variability determines your kind of your youth and your robustness and your resilience to stress. And it's an indicator of longevity. But also when you're feeling gratitude and when you're feeling appreciation, when you're feeling love, when you're feeling elevated emotions, the heart beats very differently than when you're feeling, say, resentment or impatience or frustration, right? And we looked at these 700 people. They're all hooked up to measure their HRVs. We had about 267 healthy people in the study. And then we broke them up into depression and anxiety and PTSD and cancer. These are people that were struggling with health conditions. From the very first day of the 10-day event, the very first meditation, as an example, we were looking at depressed people. They have a very different HRV pattern than a healthy person. But in every single meditation, the people with depression, their heart rate variability looked exactly like the healthy people.
Wow.
In every meditation. Wow. By the end of the 7th day, you could not determine whether the person was depressed or healthy because it looked exactly the same. Now, that's a stretch for a lot of people. It's a stretch for me, a stretch for the scientists a lot of times, but if it's the truth, and we asked the mathematicians from Harvard, they live in Taiwan now, to do the analysis, and they said there's too much coherence. The retreat is too good, because the probability of that happening is 0.
Yeah,
there's some field effect that's taking place that's in training, like a murmuration where the flock of birds or the school of fish. It's an emergence. It's called emergence, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a non-local thing happening that somehow people get caught up in. Because they may come, a lot of people, they will say, I wanted to leave after the 2nd day. Like, dude, it was horrible. And then all of a sudden, people start breaking through, and then here you go. Then there's just a wash.
The flock all changes direction.
Everybody moves.
And
no one,
right.
Maybe one bird hitting the window, but the majority, everybody's moving in the same direction. And that's what our data shows. It shows that, it's incredible that the healthy are in training the weak, and there's some field effects. So at the end of 7 days, we usually see a great collective change. Yeah.
I love the concept of it being a science-backed change too. That you're not asking people to just
just
on
believe.
their own, just believe.
Yeah.
Oh, just trust us.
Right,
It's
right.
no,
but
you can look
the
at
data.
numbers and charts and the things, and it's all right there.
It's really interesting about that because when we look at people that have healed, we study the language of transformation. I said we study the people's stories. And there's nothing like a great story, because when somebody stands on the stage in front of 2,000 people and they tell their story, it's the 4-minute mile. That person does not look vegan. They don't look buff. They don't look particularly young. They don't have a nice wardrobe. You would pass them on the street, but when they tell their story of how they made their way and they healed themselves of some, chronic health condition, there's so much power in that story because they're speaking to someone in the audience who's relating to them because they have a similar health condition.
Right.
And they're thinking, if that person can do it, then I can do it as well. And just like an infection spreads amongst the community and creates disease, all of a sudden you see, health and wellness becoming as infectious as disease because we had 5 people step out of a wheelchair, 1 week-long event because one person stood up.
Right.
And then
everyone's like, oh, if they did it,
exactly.
we can all do it.
But it's not only a belief that they have, like, oh, that person did it. There's a field effect. There's a footprint in consciousness that somebody can step into because the person who stood up, the first person who stood up had MS. But the next one had a spinal cord injury. Another one had a brain injury. Another one had myasthenia gravis. There was not the same diagnosis, right? Yeah. So I think the people who healed in this work, when I talk to them, the ones that tell their stories, the chemo wasn't working, the surgeries didn't work, the radiation didn't work. The drug trial didn't work. The vegan, organic, ketogenic diet, nothing was working, right? And they were like, oh my God, nothing changes in my life until I change. Maybe it's me. Maybe I have to change. Like, as I said, they were doing their meditations to change. But the other thing that was so important, when I talked to them, they said I did my meditation sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. And I was like, why? And they said, because nothing else was working. And the only thing that I had left was my belief in myself. And I started to doubt in the middle of the day. Like I started to disbelieve again. I started to doubt. Instead of suffering, I went back in and I changed it. And I got up believing again in my future. And like that's a sign that you've overcome yourself. Because if you get up from your meditation and you believe less in your future, you didn't overcome you. Right. But if you actually get up and if you have to sit there for 2 hours, and the only way you're actually going to believe in your future is when you feel the emotion of it. And that means you got to overcome your fear and your doubt and change it to love or gratitude or empowerment or whatever it is. And they did their meditations 2 or 3 times a day because they wanted to remember to believe. And that's how they healed.
That's where it takes the commitment that you were talking about. I think everyone can relate to a simple gratitude practice. You could say, okay, be grateful, and you name some of the things that you're used to saying. And it's like, okay, I'm grateful for my house and my family and my health. But it's really when you start to feel it, when you can actually feel the emotion of it. I see it with my children and family at Christmas time. We'll do these rolling gratitude practices and they'll start talking about honey and the bees that make the honey. And at some point, you could see them start to change. They were maybe having a bad day and then there's a different look in their eye because they're feeling the energy of that as opposed to just thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, I mean, thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body. And in order for it to get to the body,
you got a good one.
You got to feel the emotion of it, right? So for me, what matters the most for me with children is not that you can feel gratitude. It's when you can feel gratitude when you're feeling something else.
Right. Yes.
Right? Because that's emotional intelligence, right? And there'll be 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't, and it's never going to be the right time. But if you can convert from anger or hatred or frustration or fear or pain or suffering and say, I know, this is not positive thinking, by the way. This is changing your emotional state. If you could move from that into a different emotional state, that's worth more than all the gold in the world for anybody, because you're no longer living in your past when you do that. You're only living in your past when you're feeling the emotions of your past, right? And so 3 days of doing that, converting a limited I'll say stress emotion or survival emotion to an elevated emotion. Our research shows just in 3 days, at the end of 3 days, doing it 3 times a day, you make a very strong immunoglobulin called immunoglobulin A, which is your body's natural flu shot. It goes up by 50% just by feeling gratitude instead of feeling one of those other emotions. I mean, and your body is actually manufacturing it because your body's so objective. It doesn't know the difference between an experience in your life that's creating that gratitude and the gratitude you're fabricating by thought alone.
Believing it.
Your body's believing it's living in a whole new environment. And the environment signals the genes, that's epigenetics. And the end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion. The person's signaling genes ahead of the environment. And genes make proteins, and they're making immunoglobulin by thought alone. Now, for a lot of people, that's hard for them to accept. But when it comes down to whether I'm going to heal from this health condition or not, you're going to say, am I going to hold a grudge against that person for the rest of my life because the only person that's hurting is me? Okay, well, if I really want to live and my response to that person is weakening me, it's weakening my body, that isn't loving to me. And people who heal say, I just have to give up those emotions. And there's a story with every emotion. But when does that story end? I mean, telling the story of your past actually reaffirms the need to not change, right?
Well, that's the interesting thing about the work that you do and at these retreats. And I've been to a few of them, and people aren't sharing their stories, maybe stories of healing or what's happening to them, but you are not sitting and going back into people's lives and having people tell their story of what happened to them.
Sure. I mean, I guess you get to tell the story when you overcome your past. I mean, if you don't overcome it, I don't think it's healthy to tell. Because
it's not a story that you're telling. It's your present. You're just sharing kind of the state of mind that you're in.
But I mean, the neuroscience research shows that 50% of that story isn't even the truth. You're making it up. I mean,
it's the way you remember it.
Because that's how we excuse ourselves from changing. And that means we're reliving a miserable life we never even had. Right. And just to reaffirm the fact that we can't change, right? So I want the people to tell the story of their future.
Yeah.
And I want them to believe, behave, and become. Believe it, behave as if it's the truth, and ultimately become it. And that's exactly what we see. You go from philosopher to initiate to master, from knowledge to experience to wisdom, from mind to body to soul, from thinking to doing to being, to learning with your head, applying with your hands, knowing it by heart, believing, behaving, and becoming. It's not your wealth, it's not your health, it's not your new relationship, it's not your new career, it's not the mystical experience. It's who you become in the process. And if 95% of who we are is automatic, then it is the overcoming process that is the becoming process. That's when you get to tell a story, right? Because you've overcome it, right? So the person who heals from their health condition, they'll tell me, I would have never changed. I want you to know I would have never changed unless I had that disease. I know that about myself. My disease was a blessing. They're no longer victimized by it. It was the catalyst for them to get serious. Like, let me get serious about this.
Yeah. How often do I tell that as so I went through this neurological thing. I don't want to get into it. It's a long story, but I always say to everyone when I was in it, I was like, what good is coming out of this? And I look back on it now and I go, that was the thing that was the absolute change and the trigger for me and the catalyst for all of it.
Yeah.
It changed the way I perceived things.
Yeah.
And you realize like, oh, if I can get through that,
yeah. And that's why
incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and that's why the collective consciousness, I think, is so important. Because you can't tell me you're too old to do it any longer. We have our elders that have beautiful brain scans. They've healed from all kinds of things. You can't tell me you're too sick. I've seen people with really, really bad diagnoses that I never even thought was possible to heal, right? And they turned it around, changed my belief. You can't tell me you've had a brutal past. We've had a lot of people that have had really tough pasts, that had night terrors and panic attacks, 30 hours a week, depressed, suicidal, completely different people. Like, they're not owned by it any longer. You can't even say that I don't even know how to meditate. People who come that never meditated before, they turn out to be some of the best brain scans that we've ever seen, because they just say, tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. I'll do exactly what you tell me to do, and they do it. So again, that's part of the collective. It's everybody is a part of the collective.
You said there's two things in my brain floating around. There's something you just said of they're not owned by it anymore. I think people can often spend so much time being identified by, or they want validation, so they can't let it go, of this story of what happened or what they've experienced, whether it be illness or trauma. But as you say, nothing's going to change unless you change. And being able to let that go and tell your new story of where you're going and what you're becoming is so incredibly powerful. But you can't necessarily get there unless you decide to go, this is no longer my story.
Yeah.
And I don't need to tell it until I'm through it.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't even say, why haven't I healed? Why hasn't my life changed? Because if you're asking that question, you're still the same personality.
Right.
You can't say that. If you're in the river of change, man, the hardest part about that is not making the same choice. And when you restrain yourself from making the known choice, it's incredibly uncomfortable because you're stepping into the unknown and you can't predict, right? And you can't control. And people run back and they go back to the familiar and they say, oh, this feels right. No, that feels familiar. Right? So, but if you give people an understanding, like we've all done this, by the way. Everybody knows what it's like to change. You get very clear on what you want. You get so clear on what you want that you can feel the emotion of when it happens. When you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you're changing your biology. Because the stronger the emotion you feel, the more you remember your choice. That's exactly how we create long-term memories. You have a trauma, a betrayal, whatever. It changes your internal state. The brain takes a snapshot and remembers the image, right? And the stronger the emotion, the more you remember it. Well, the stronger the emotion you have for your future, the more you'll remember that vision, right? So we all know how to do this. The challenging part is you got to get very clear on the thoughts you're not going to think. I'm too tired. It's too late. I'm not going to feel good. I'll never change. I can't, whatever. You got to decide what choices you got to stop making, the things you got to stop doing, the experiences.
Things you got to stop saying. Excuses you've got to stop.
You got to come right up against that. And even the emotions where I'm too tired, I don't want to, I don't feel good. Those are all the reasons why people don't change. But the great thing about the retreat is we all go together. We're all sitting together. You're going to show up because you show up, because everybody shows up. And no matter if it's how hard it is, if you're willing to go through it and you're willing to sit in it, sooner or later, the voice in your head, we have the data to show this. We have really great data to show that the voice in your head goes away, and it stays going away with your eyes open after the meditation. The chatter in your head. You emerge as somebody else. And so if you're willing to go past, I can, it's too hard, I want to lay down, I want to quit, I'm tired. If you're willing to go past that, you're willing to get past that personality. If you're willing to get past the agitation or the impatience, the judgment, and your body's getting aroused, instead of saying, I can't meditate, this is too hard, we tell you what to do, you tame the animal. You settle the body, the animal down, settle the body in its aroused state, back down into the present moment. That's the victory. That's the overcoming process. The need to reach for your cell phone, the need to get up and go do something. Nobody else is getting up and doing anything. When you start feeling that urge to get up and do something, and you say to your body, Now you get back here and you settle the body back down again. You're executing a will.
I'm so guilty of that.
You're executing a will that's greater than the program, and that's the victory. That's the overcoming process. And the only way you get good at becoming conscious is actually catching yourself when you go unconscious. And you keep doing that enough times, you won't go unconscious, because how many times do we have to forget until we stop forgetting and start remembering? That's the moment of change. It's no different than any habit you break. Now, this is the habit of yourself, right? But people who are willing to unlearn and relearn, to break the habit of their old self and reinvent a new self, the people that are willing to do that in 7 days, it's absolutely possible. That's the cool part about it. It doesn't have to take 3 weeks or a year. And so much of our data suggests at the end of 7 days, you're just about every aspect of your biology and your nervous system looks like you're an advanced meditator. Just figure out how to do it and go all in, just like you do with anything else you do in your life.
I think there's a lot to be said too for this collective and the community that you talk about. You sit there, you get uncomfortable, no one else is getting their phone. And we were talking about this just before we came into the room of surround yourself with proof too, that it can be done.
Yeah.
When you're having those moments of like doubt or it's too hard, also sit down, relearn the knowledge, everything you've said. But I think surround yourself with proof and surround yourself with stories, whether it's podcasts, your meditations, the data. Surround yourself with something to remind you that it's all possible.
Yeah,
That so many people, thousands, millions of people have done this, and you just got to sit through that discomfort and stay in it and break the habit of being yourself.
It's something that you have to be willing to do on a regular basis, because it's so much easier to forget this than to remember it, because we're programmed into believing something else. We are programmed into believing something completely different, because our data shows, if you look at it really closely, that the human nervous system manufactures a pharmacy of chemicals that works better than any drug. That's what our data shows.
I love that. That's so amazing.
And I'm not saying that. That's what the data's saying. We've isolated all kinds of factors in the blood that are so pro-life, so pro-growth, so pro-healing, that weren't there at the beginning of 7 days, that are there at the end of 7 days. And I keep saying to scientists, where is that information coming from? They're not taking 100% of the people that we studied, 63 different diseases, all of them, every single person noticed a reduction in pain and more energy. And those are two of the common things that with chronic health conditions. 63 different diseases. At the end of 7 days, everybody reports they have less pain. We do the analysis. We look at their plasma. 100% of the people are making their own endogenous opioids, natural pharmacy of morphines and chemicals that reduce pain and create euphoria. It wasn't like three people out of it was the entire population.
Yeah. Wow.
That's what we're seeing. We take the plasma of advanced meditators. We put it on a uterine cancer cell, a breast cancer cell, a pancreatic cancer cell. 84% of the advanced meditators have factors in their blood that are anti-carcinogenic. It's crazy. I could go on. There's the majority of people that go through a 7-day event have factors in their blood that actually create new neurons and new connections in the brain. It's insane. That wasn't there before. Where it wasn't there at the beginning of the event, it's there at the end of the event. Where did it come from?
Speaking of things that aren't, I'm so sorry, Randy, you have a question, please. But because I'm just so excited about it. Speaking of things that weren't there before, the story of the woman who had her thyroid removed and started to grow back a thyroid that was producing hormones.
Yeah. I was on camera when they told me that for the first time, and you should see my face. I was like, no way. Like, it would challenge my belief. But since then, we've had other people do it as well. I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean? It means, again, we're programmed into something else. If that's the truth, that means then that the human body has the innate capacity to regenerate itself at any age if it's given the right information. That's what that means. Because we've had people grow tissues and organs back other than their thyroid. That has challenged my belief. We have people with muscular dystrophy that was in a wheelchair that walked out. There's no cure for muscular dystrophy. Like, I don't know how that happened, but we're curious about it.
Why do you think that we are programmed to not believe that? Because if that is the body's natural state, you've seen countless people have spontaneous remissions of various diseases. Why is that we're not programmed to see that truth?
Ooh, I'm gonna see if I can walk the tightrope here. It would change the way we do health and we do medicine.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with needing something outside of you to help mitigate or change some internal state. And the challenge, I think it is the moment you notice a change in your internal state, you pay attention to what caused it, and that starts creating conditioning or a dependency. So the moment you start feeling uncomfortable or depressed or whatever, your brain actually goes to what it knows based on conditioning, based on the past, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think there's an innate capacity for us as human beings to make our own pharmacology, and that's what we're discovering. That's not something that is part of our culture or the Western culture. It's not part of our current beliefs. It's certainly not part of our society. It's not even part of the information that we're exposed to. But the data suggests that that's the truth. So this is not for everybody. This is not something that everybody can just go, oh, I'm in. Many people maybe have a propensity to think this way, but other people that have never been exposed to meditation or never been exposed to these concepts, they say, I can't be passing out 5 times a day. The doctors don't have any answers for me. I don't want my sacrum bone amputated because I have a tumor in there, and then I will lose everything from below my waist in terms of voluntary function. There's got to be another way. Hey, my Parkinson's disease is getting really bad. I've lost my memory. I can't speak. I'm in prison here. There's got to be another way. And again, once that person crosses that bridge and produces an outcome, the excitement for me is that someone else will do it. And they'll probably do it in a shorter amount of time. And I think we have over 1,000 stories of transformation, like over 1,000 stories. I mean, they're unbelievable.
Wow.
For someone that can't get to one of your retreats for whatever reason, what would you suggest as a really good, positive starting point?
Yeah, I mean, I've written 4 books. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself probably is the most popular out of them, even though others did better. Again, start off filling your brain with knowledge instead of, social media. Sit down and go, let me read this to the point where I can repeat it. Not just rush through the book, but let me see, I'm going to do this. I mean, that's the cool part about people who never knew anything about my work is they're like, I'm a nurse. This makes total sense to me. I'm going to read it. I'm going to practice it. So anything you do that inspires the original thought of, oh my God, I could actually heal from my health condition. Fill your brain with knowledge and information. Then do a course. We have the formula. It's an easy one. We have the progressive workshop, which is another great thing, introduction. But get to the practical application. Or you can just really basically write down 2 thoughts, 2 behaviors, and 2 emotions that you want to change and work on it for 4 weeks. If I change these thoughts, I don't no longer think this way, act this way, and feel this way. And I start thinking this way, acting this way, and feeling this way, even though my friends will think I'm crazy.
Right.
Will my life change? And when you start seeing your life start to mysteriously have doors open up, you start to experience the truth of it. And that's what I want everybody to do. I mean, nobody's so special to be excluded from it, really. That's the cool part about it.
You just had something called Believing, Behaving, Becoming Abundance. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So we decided to do this online course. And I don't typically do online courses because I love events where we're all together. But we did it. And so the first week it was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And Monday was the course content, the information. Wednesday was the meditation. Friday was the Q&A. And the first week, I wanted to talk about what is it about abundant people what are the qualities and characteristics of an abundant person versus a person who lives in lack. Let's get really conscious and aware so we can actually decide who we no longer want to be and who we do want to be, right? If I change my personality from personality of lack to a personality of abundance, without ever trying to create any abundance, but just become that person who's persistent and determined, who's open-minded, who learns from their mistakes, who's creative, who's not threatened by failure, and take on whatever that is. So the first week was really about becoming that personality. The second week was really about creating from the field, creating from the quantum field instead of creating matter to matter. If I can change the information in the field, can I change my life in some way? So the second week was really about this concept of brain and heart coherence and beginning to create a different signature in the field. And then the third week was about putting it all together, doing 1 foot in the real world and 1 foot in the quantum world. And we got some great stories and some great feedback. So this event I'm doing, one of the events I'm doing towards the end of the year, is a week-long event, and I'm going to change a lot of the content, and we're just going to go immersive into abundant mind, abundant heart, abundant life. Because I really think that, people say they want abundance, but there's an abundance of time, there's an abundance of resources, there's abundance of synchronicities, abundance of mystical experiences, abundance of love, abundance of material things. I just think there's so many ways to frame abundance, and but I did it just because it was a big community ask. I can't say I don't have enough time because that's a belief, right? But I do a lot of things. I do a lot of things. I do a lot. We work with prisons now. We work with Navy SEALs and veterans and Green Berets, and we're, again, great outcomes. We're working with indigenous tribes. We're working with autistic children now. Or we have a youth community that we're working with. There's tons of research that we're doing. We have doctors now and healthcare providers. We have programs for them. We have corporate consulting, and I'm just finishing an online university for companies and organizations. So I'm busy, and so when they say, "Will you do it?" I'm like, I don't want to, but I do it.
Yeah, it seems like a good vehicle for people because abundance is something that pretty much everyone can relate to, and I think it's something that gets them in the door to overcoming themselves, to then be open to more, what else can I do in this space?
Sure. I think, the body's kind of the first domain, and then you stretch it out past your body, then the experiment gets really exciting, right? But yeah, we've got some great stories from it too.
Where and when is this next retreat? Because I want to go.
So the 10-day one, I actually was wanting to go to your one last year. Was it in Tulum? It was in Mexico. Cancun. And Melissa and I, who is also a big believer and lover of your work, she called me. She's like, we should go to this together. And I was like, let's do it. And we were waiting on the website. Crispin. And everyone wants to do it. It's so hard to get in.
We had 2,500 people at that event. We had over 10,000. We had 11,000 people on a waiting list. Wow.
Yes, exactly. We were on the waiting list.
Wow.
Spectacular.
But what would be a great one for you is come to San Diego. We're at a brand new hotel in San Diego in December. The Gaylord. It's
amazing.
We have a great relationship with them. It's right on the water in Chula Vista. And people have been begging for us to do a week long in California.
For real, will be.
Yeah, and you'll meet your tribe, and we'll do some really cool research there. We're always doing crazy research, but we'll be doing research there because the university is right there. We partner with UC San Diego, and we have Harvard and Stanford too, but San Diego's our main one. Yeah.
I would love to.
That's amazing.
I would love to know, Dr. Joe, when did you know that this was your life's calling? You've probably been asked that a million times, and I apologize if you have.
No, I don't get asked that a lot. Listen, I never planned on doing any of this. I never planned on doing any of this. I'm just a curious person about, I don't think that this is all there is. I never thought that from the time I was a child. I think you after a certain point in your childhood, you kind of close the door on certain things. And, I had my own personal injury that led to me, do I want to have surgery or do I want to make a different choice? I made a different choice. That worked for me. And then I thought, how did that work? And I couldn't get any answers from conventional scientific or medical books that I was looking for. And then it led me to this kind of whole field of neuroplasticity and epigenetics and quantum physics. It was kind of a refreshing way to look at life at that point. And then I started studying spontaneous remissions from diseases, and I interviewed hundreds of people that were treating conventionally or unconventionally, and they were staying the same or getting worse, and all of a sudden they got better. And I wanted to know what it was that they did that produced that outcome. And I was a Puritan at the time. I was vegetarian. I was did yoga. I did triathlons. I had all that stuff. And I was so shocked that it was none of those things. It was completely everything to do with the mind and change. And when I kind of figured out what the common elements were, I mean, I studied a lot of neuroscience, went back to school, and I figured out the common elements. And I thought, well, if it worked with these people, let's see if I can reproduce the change. And for 2 years, we didn't see much results. I saw people feeling a little bit better well-being. And then the floodgates broke. And that's when we started seeing people making really big changes. And that's when we started doing the measurements. And that's when I wanted to demystify the process. So I never really planned on doing this. I mean, I think I reached a point in my personal journey right before my last book. You know, I was looking at all the data and everything, and I was like, you know what? There's always going to be people that don't like me. There's always going to be people that bash me. There's always going to be people that say I'm pseudoscience. In fact, you can't call this pseudoscience now, but it's pseudoscience. And I was just like, you know what? I don't really care about those people. I mean, they're not going to like me anyway. I'm going to talk to the people who do like me. And when I made that shift, where I was like, I don't care any longer, that's when I was just went all in. I wouldn't say it has been an easy journey, because we come up against convention a lot of times. But you know, in looking at a lot of the scientists that are part of our research team, they were skeptics and doubters, and very, very material, kind of in that materialist view. And the conversations I have with them now I never thought I would ever have a conversation with a scientist like the conversations we're having. They're blown wide open. And then when I ask them, why do you come? Like, why do you come and sit in that chair? Why do you come? They say it's medicine. It's medicine. I'm the one that's looking at the cells. This is medicine. Like, that's medicine. So, I'm inspired by watching this whole thing unfold. Yeah.
I know it's not magic because it's science, but it can
be magical.
It's magical.
It can feel magical.
It's incredible when I listen to the data. And I'm not a data brain, by the way. There are lots of times where I'll need to read things 5 times to be able to repeat it, But when I hear the data of the way that you talk about these proteins and things changing, or how a cell and a virus, and it goes, but it quite literally blocks it. And there's things that even my brain makes sense of and goes, that's unbelievable to know that you also have actual literal proof of these things happening. Yeah. That's, once upon a time it would have been called magic, and now you're able to say, well, it's not. It's science now.
And also, the other cool thing is that the conversations we're having with physicians now, because people with a diagnosis, the doctors, they show up, and there have been so many doctors that have freaked out when they were like, I think I got the wrong scan. I don't, and what did you do? I didn't do anything. Like, what did you do? I epigenetically signaled new genes in new ways, downregulated my gene for gene, upregulated my gene for health. The doctor's like, what are you talking about?
I talked to him. There was a lot of love involved in it. There was a lot of connection.
Give me a hot doc.
Right. And it's like, what do you mean? Right. And then there was a pill attached to that. It's like, no pill.
But we just had it. I was just telling these guys, we just did an event in Denver last weekend. We had a doctor on the stage, researcher / physician, that's the ophthalmologist that studies blind spots in the visual field, and her passion is because she's had migraine headaches since she was a child, and it just kept getting progressively worse. Now she's a physician, right? That's her field of expertise. She's got her own doctor that she's seeing, and she's getting worse, and she's not responding to medications, and 17, 18 migraines a week. And they're not one-day things. They're usually 2 days. You got to take a day to sleep and recover.
Jesus.
And she was losing her life.
God.
And she had one moment at the event, and she was healing another person, and she got healed healing another person.
Wow.
And she hasn't had a migraine since. Zero. So that opens.
That's amazing.
It opens a person's mind. Like, maybe we don't have all the answers. Maybe this model of the way we've been approaching health is not the right model. I mean, if you think about it, the research shows that between 60 and 90% of every person that walks into a healthcare facility in the Western world walks in because of emotional or psychological stress. That's somewhere between 6 to 9 out of 10 people. And stress is when you're knocked out of homeostasis, right? When you're knocked out of balance. So the emotional component of how we live our lives is one of the number one things that keeps us unhealthy. And if chronic health conditions require a lifestyle change like we were talking about, nobody's teaching anybody how to change. And you could be organic and vegan, and you could do all the right yoga and exercise and all that stuff.
If you're not
but if you
doing
have a fear of whatever, or you're not overcoming something, you're not going to stay in homeostasis, right? So it's the conversation has to change a lot, and that's what we're doing with our model now that we're teaching physicians and healthcare providers. The language has to change around health. The language has to change back to homeostasis. You got 3 types of stress: physical, chemical, and emotional. That means you got 3 types of balance: physical, chemical, and emotional. And you got to teach that to patients, because you just can't walk in and someone's going to write you a prescription and say, take this, it's going to take care of your condition. It's not.
Right.
It's not. It's going to maybe
it's going to block these 2, and then it might help with this.
And then you may need to take another one for the side effect.
Right.
But if you can get somebody more emotionally balanced and more chemically balanced, they may be more physically balanced.
Yeah.
Get somebody more physically balanced, more emotionally balanced, they're going to be more chemically balanced. So get 2 out of the 3 in order, the third one comes around. But if not, work on all 3. And so I think it's really important for the conversations to be had based on the research that we've done, because the physicians are kind of going, okay, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? How does this work? Like, this is one of the reasons why I got in medicine. I want to learn this. And as again, I was talking to the researchers this morning, and we have so many young people that are in our work that are like, I want to be in the lab. I want to be in the lab. We got 12 grad students now. We're going to put another 12 in there, and we're going to raise the money for these kids to get in there and strictly work on what we're studying. You know, I mean, the young ones that did the work on the breast milk study, they're so lit up. I mean, it wasn't just a small change in breast milk. At the end of 7 days, we look at the analysis, completely different breast milk. There's completely different breast milk. Something happened, right? It's crazy.
God.
It's like the best supplement ever.
Yeah, for sure.
It's incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of young ones, how do we start this with our kids? Because I know this is left field from any of the questions that we had on
the
plan, by the way, and I hope that's okay, because we see a lot of struggle in our kids today. Not just, I don't mean just ours, but kids across the world are really struggling in all of those balances that you talked about: physical, emotional, and chemical. And so how do we begin the process with our kids? How do we help them heal and create more balance in those systems from a younger age?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to do this next course. It's going to be called the 10 Laws of Quantum Parenting, just because it's been such a big ask amongst our community. I've raised 3 kids also and raised them in this work. And I think there's, when you understand development, nervous system development, you have to know the timing of when to introduce certain things. You certainly don't tell your young child that was just here, you created your reality, that's why you're sick. Like, it doesn't work like that. It's not like that. It's not like that. You have to kind of build fundamentals. And some of the most key things that you can teach your children is how to shorten their emotional response. That is like the number one key thing. Like, if you can teach them how to change their emotional state, it's the greatest thing you can teach them, because you can't reason with a child when they're emotional. And so there are ways to do that. And then, there are also times in the day or in the morning and the evening when it's really important to give kids information, because they're the most suggestible to that information. So children don't learn based on what you say, although they listen, they're observing what you're doing, right? So it's more mirror neurons, right? They're tracking your behaviors, and they're going to behave just like you. So the fast track to enlightenment is raising kids, because you got to be the very thing you want them to be. You can't say, stop being an emotional basket case.
You have to lead by example.
Yeah, not do as I say.
Don't be on
not
your
as I do
phone
type of
and then
thing.
you're sitting there.
Yeah.
Right.
Listen,
As soon as I get off of this, I'm going to have a word with you. Yeah.
And you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with technology, but there's something wrong with technology.
For sure.
And, you know, every time a child interacts with a device like that, there is a surge of dopamine in the brain, and dopamine is the reward chemical or the pleasure chemical. But the amount of dopamine that's typically released is enormous. And what it does is it desensitizes the receptors in the cell. So now you got to produce more dopamine to get the cell switched on. So you start hijacking the pleasure centers to a higher and higher level. And in the absence of that stimulation, you can't find pleasure in anything. So no sunset can bring you joy, no walking with your dog or seeing your grandparent, especially after you've just gamed for an hour or spent an hour on your device. This anhedonia begins to form where children become desensitized. And when it comes to learning should be a reward in and of itself, right? So nature. I mean, this is a narrow focus when you're on a device. You know, get out on the surf, it's an open focus. Get out up in the mountains, it's an open focus. Get out in nature, you know, garden, get out there, get your hands in the soil. Yeah. I mean, I just have, I'll let you know when the course comes out, but I think we have, in our advanced retreats, we have a huge youth community. Out of 2,000 people, we have probably a little over 100 to 100 kids that are under the age of 25. And we have some kids that are like 8 or 10.
That come to your...
Yeah, they come to...
Because I was going to ask, like, I'll bring out... We have 13, 11, 9, 3 probably a bit too young. But like especially our 13 and 11-year-olds who are hitting those points of... It's just lots of stuff, you know, and I would love to help them learn.
Yeah. And that's a cool thing, because our youth community, I mean, these kids are into it.
Yeah.
Like I say to them all the time, figure this out now. Figure it out now, and the rest of your life will be easy. So my children, I worked on different things at different times. And then when they got to be a certain age, then I was like, okay, now we're going for a real life event. Is this what you want to create? Here's the deal, I can't intervene. This is your relationship with the divine within you and the universe, and you're going to have to become that person, or you're going to have to create it. And they were able to do it. Like, it just took them a little time, and they'll do it way better than you. I mean, in a shorter amount of time, because they have no filter, right? So, also, there's an interesting thing about brainwave development that children, the first couple of years of their life, they're in delta, which is like they're sleeping with their eyes open. Mm-hmm. And then from like 2 to 6, they're in theta. That's a very hypnotic state. There's no filter, right? Big boys don't cry. Little girls should be seen and not heard. Money's the root of all evil. You know, don't do this. There's whatever it is. That goes right in their subconscious without being edited or filtered. They have no analytical mind. And then like 6 to 12, so 6, 7 to 12, they move into alpha, which is the imaginary state, right? That's when they pretend and they play, right? I mean, you have an 8-year-old kid, a 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid, they're imagining all the time. And technology eliminates that, right? So it's so important for them to imagine and dream at that stage and try to keep that elongated as possible. Then after 12, the analytical mind forms, and you have this separation between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So there are times when it's really important to work with your children developmentally. And I think, like I watched my oldest son. I spent a lot of time teaching him how to model behaviors when he was young. He could watch you do something just a few times and kind of figure it out by watching you. I wanted that to be a strong trait for him.
I see that in our 3-year-old with physical things. He'll watch you do it, and then you shall not do it for him ever again. He shall do it himself.
That's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, the modeling seems to be key as a parent. And I love that you said, I can't intervene. This is your relationship with the divine, and this is your path.
Yeah, they're little souls. I mean, they're little souls, and they chose their parents for a very specific reason, you know. And I think they have mystical experiences as children, and I think like I watched my own children. I used to sit down with a whiteboard and talk to them, you know, and draw things out, try stuff out on them to be like, and I mean, they said to me like, Dad, that was the best hour of my life.
Really? That's really cool.
They say stuff like that. That was really great. Like, that was really great. Like, they want that stuff, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But for me, like, if you come to a week-long retreat, my main thing is to make learning fun. We're very loose. It's very fun. We're playing. You're sharing. You're learning. You're teaching it back. You get it done. They're always telling stories. We just kind of keep it engaging, right? So we did a study with youth, and elders, and they had to be 30 years age different. And we paired them together. It's called, our lead scientist, Hemal Patel, created this idea called parabiosis. There's been studies at Berkeley where they took rats and they fused their circulatory system together. And they had an old rat and a young rat, and the older rat got a lot younger because there was information in their blood that was changing their biology. And the younger one got slightly older. So instead of pairing them that way, could we put them together and have them exchange information by learning together and experiencing together? And could we see what would happen at the end of 7 days? And it was incredible. And it's because it was fascinating, because the elders were like, I'm sorry, I'm going to need another young kid. I'm not going to make it with this kid. And the young kids were like, are you kidding me? That is the grumpiest guy I've ever seen in my life. There's no way I'm going to spend a week with him. And to this day, they're best friends.
I love that.
That's amazing.
And what we discovered, we had them doing cognitive tests. So they had to eat together. They had to sit next to each other, and they had to share the information, teach it back. And then they had to do meditation together, and then they had to meet at 5:30 in the morning and take these cognitive tests and all this stuff. And we did brain scans on them, and we compared them to youth that went through the event without being paired and elders that went through the event without being paired. And the paired individuals, their brains, their frontal lobes were gamma, which is super, super consciousness. And then the elders and the youth, and there was this whole regional alpha around their brain. There was no stress or high beta activity. It was this kind of relaxed and awake state, which is kind of part of the formula. And so we discovered that the wisdom of the elder was transferred to the youth, and the plasticity of the youth was kind of contributed to the elder. And when they did their performance tests, their cognitive performance tests, that they outperformed everybody. The elders did way better, and the youth, we didn't expect the youth to do better.
It's phenomenal.
But the youth did really so much better. And it's, I met your mom. It's so important. This is fundamentally important. Have the grandma and grandpa hang with the young, because they're going to give them things that you cannot give them. And that age difference somehow enhances a lot of childhood development.
I've said this about my mum. So my mum moved here because Zane was born, so a little over 3 years ago. And I've said I've watched her age backwards in the last 3 years.
No doubt. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And you've just made it make sense for me.
I have no doubt about that. No
Wow.
doubt. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
That's fascinating.
Wow.
That is fascinating. We're all going to the retreat.
Yeah, right.
But
It's a whole family affair.
That was one of the cool things, because I've seen 10-year-old kids or 7-year-old kids sitting in a chair. They drive their parents crazy. They're, I want to go. And the parents, contact us and say, you can come, but you have to practice. They practice every day, but you don't sit with their parents. So you see them, 7, 8-year-old kids sitting with this woman with gray hair, and they're talking quantum, and they're going back and forth. Like, their language is changing them. That's what we discovered. They're speaking a language independent of their native language. At the end of 7 days, they'll speak the same language. They'll use the same words.
Fascinating.
That's why I say, I watched this young kid have a peak moment during a healing. And I said, what was that like? It's like, that felt really good. I'm thinking, who's this kid going to be? I see a kid on the beach doing a walking meditation. I'm seeing energy move into his brain. His head is back. And I know he's feeling something really big. And I'm standing next to him. He's 12 years old. I'm thinking,
I want that for our kids.
Who's that guy going to be? And then all the teenagers, they say all the time, thank you for teaching me how to open my heart again. I shut it down, and I don't want to ever do that again. And they're really tight. They're really, really tight. So I'm investing a lot of resources in this next year for our youth community. We're gonna we have an elite program called Excalibur, where they have to apply to get accepted. They have to be Socratic in the way they answer questions. We'll have AI programs to figure out if they're using any, AI.
Yeah.
And then they'll be interviewed, and if they're accepted, it'll be an elite group, and we'll raise money for scholarships for them, and then we'll place them in the universities, and we'll have people in our community that have successful companies that will mentor them. They're the leaders, of the the future.
Do you just
That's incredible.
love what you do?
I do. I love my job.
I'm listening to you speak, and I'm thinking, this has got to be for someone that truly loves affecting people and creating change. My God, what a dream!
Well, the passion
job.
for it radiates off you when you speak about it.
I think for me, Sharna, is more than anything else is that it's constantly changing me. Like I'm the observer of this, and I keep saying to the scientists, I mean, they're pretty straight in front of the audience, but when we're hanging out with them, I keep saying to them, I can't believe this is the truth.
Right.
And they're like, I know. And I'm like, I can't believe it's the truth. They're like, I know. Like it's so yes, there's that, but just there's something very provocative about the discovery. And the discovery is mind-blowing. Like I'll get a text from the lead scientist that we need to talk. I'm like, whoa. No, we need to talk. Like, how many percentage? 95%. 95%. Like, it's crazy. So the discovery to me is, it keeps me engaged. I never get tired.
I see the joy in your mind too, and in your eyes when you're talking, that you are in this constant state of trying to push the boundaries and go in new directions that you haven't before, and then you learn from them, and you're like, ooh, if this works, then I cannot wait to. So you're constantly expanding this world that you've built. It's got to be.
It's kind of it reminds me like when I watch you speak and the way your brain works with like childlike wonder. Well, if this can happen, what about that can happen? It's like you don't have those limits that we tend to put on ourselves as we grow, and you've either learned to or
you're like the Willy
it.
Wonka of like you are. You really, it's you seem
like
to be
anything is possible.
Is that a new title for you?
How do you feel about that?
And you love bringing people with you and sharing that experience. You come across as someone that is the complete opposite of selfish in what it is you do. Like you are just selfless, and you love sharing this information and growing with people. And when you do these retreats, you seem like someone that does these retreats because you really love doing them. Yeah. You're not like, oh, this is kind of the business that I do, and this is the thing, and so we have to do a certain amount of retreats every year to make sense of you. It seems bigger than that. And it's so impressive to watch because the world doesn't have many people that look at it the same way you do.
Oh, thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, I'll go as far as I can. I mean, I believe in human potential, and more so now than ever, way more than I ever did when I started this journey. And it's too good to stop at this point.
It's addicting.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's so needed. And this younger generation that you're going to be putting time into and all of that, these are our leaders of the future. And even why I say I want to teach this to our kids, like we can do it better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the current problems of the world that were created from a certain level of consciousness or unconsciousness has to be resolved from a greater level of consciousness.
Absolutely.
And so with the youth, we teach them the neuroscience of leadership. We teach them values. We teach them, what it is to create reality. We teach them about their hormones. They need to know about that, why they behave the way they do. All that information is a tantamount. It's ingredients for them to understand who they are and what they are in the world. And I love the fact that our youth can do technology, but they can lay it down. And if you can set it down, it's it doesn't own you any longer, right? And they do that really, really well. And I usually spend an evening with them at the week-longs, and we do a Q&A, and they're so sincere, and their questions are so amazing. Yeah, really, really cool to see, yeah.
That, I think, is the ultimate overcoming, to see kids put down devices. and put it down enough to be present. I think that speaks
and be
volumes.
fine. Be fine putting them down. You're
Yes.
like, oh, cool. Device downtime. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They're cool like that. Yeah.
How old are your kids?
Well, I have 2 in their 30s and 1 in his 20s.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. One's an engineer. The other, my daughter's an artist, and then my youngest son is an architect.
And they've always been in this work with you, or you've always shared it with them?
Yeah. I mean, they all are in my work, but our community says, "Oh, good to see you again." And then he goes, "I've been at this for 30 years, please." It's not my first retreat. It's been an ongoing retreat.
Right.
But I mean, I never try to force it down their throat.
Yeah.
I mean, I never been like that. I just want them to understand the principles and be exposed to it. And the cool thing about the youth in our community is I want them to grow up witnessing all those people healing. I want it to be normal for them.
Yes.
I mean, the stories are unbelievable, some of them. And it's just part of their understanding of the way reality is. And they have very little doubt. And the youth have their own healing group now. And they're doing amazing. They're changing people's lives. It's so cool to see. I mean, that's a great mission, no?
It's a great mission.
Unbelievable.
What a legacy.
Dr. Joe, thank you so much for being here with us, for doing the work that you do. And I can speak for all of us, I think, when I say so excited for the work that you will continue to do, to see where it goes, so everyone can know that it's not only possible, that it's probable for them.
Thank you, guys. I really loved being with you. Thank you so much.
Such a gift. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. Please go to the show notes. We'll have everything in there about Dr. Joe. You could see the film The Source, his various books, and his retreats. I highly suggest you check those out. Please follow and subscribe. It helps us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. There are a lot of things that we talked about in this episode today. It's one thing to hear about this. It's another to take action and create the life that you want. If there's something that you want to create in your life, more fulfillment, more happiness, more joy, getting in touch with your intuition and how to make better decisions, then go to my website, randyspelling.com, and find out more there. Thanks.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets, with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.